Hey guys, excuse the random crazy here. It's show week. I'm in a show at the local community theater, so it's kind of chaotic. I had to get on and share my progress. Um, I did another readathon this month. I just did the bookie trials in July. Jumped on another readathon this month with the understanding that I probably wouldn't be able to do every book for every prompt. August just starts to get busy. But I wanted to do at least the teen prompts, and I have finished those. So now I'm just going to kind of play around and see what else I can get read for the other prompts. I do have prompts for every location, um, but I may not necessarily get to all of them just because I work for the school district and we start having band practices next week, and we have band camp this month, and school starts the 27th. So life's going to get a little busy here in a minute. But I did get through all of the team prompts. This was the Disneyathon, mostly being managed through Discord and Twitter. Everybody had a team, and a lot like the bookie trials, there's a prompt for every location. And then once you're done with your stuff, you can move on to other teams. A little bit differently than the bookie trials is it guides you. Like once I'm done with my team prompts, I have to move on to a very specific team. So we have to follow the grand locations on the map in a specific order. But once I get to another team's location, I can kind of dance around wherever I want to within that realm. My team also has the power to DNF one book and still get the points for it, which I haven't exercised that power yet. So I've got that coming. So I can still get points for a book I don't finish. But I did finish the Team Aladdin prompts, all of them. They're all obviously, just being a Disneyathon, all of the prompts are named after, sorry, I'm trying to get the actual prompts here. They're all named after, obviously, Disney characters. And being on Team Aladdin shouldn't take you a whole lot to figure out who the characters in my team might be. The first was Jasmine. Read a book that involves royalty. And this is one that's been sitting on my Kindle for a while. This was the month for me to find the first in series that I'm obsessed with, or continuous series that I absolutely have to finish. It's been a good month for series. Not everything I've read has been 5-star, but the series books have been 4 and 5. This is the book for royalty, Grey Wolf. I played with that one a little bit because the title character himself is not necessarily royalty, but he's working in the service of royalty. Good book. It's world building. Corin starts out with him as a child. He loses everything. His family, his sister is taken captive. His father is killed right in front of him by this marauding band of pirates. And when he gets older, he joins this elite fighting force. There are 3 different fighting forces, all named after animals within the kingdom, and he joins the wolves, who are supposed to be the fiercest. They're also the least cuddled because the royalty favors another band of fighters more. Watching him learn to fight and learn to work with people, watching him deal with betrayal. It's just a really, really good book. It was one I picked up free from BookBub. And my philosophy with BookBub is always, if I don't even like the book, I don't have to finish it. And it didn't cost me anything because with BookBub, I don't take anything but the books that are free. So this one's been sitting on my Kindle list for a while. It fit the royalty. I've been using these readathons to try to clean out my Kindle a little bit and read some things rather than having 87 unread titles on there. But I'm really glad I took the gamble on this one. Like I said, picked it up free from somewhere. And I have since gotten the second book in the series, and we'll be reading that as well. But it was good. The Legends of Ansu is going to be a really good series, I believe, because this one just started out of the gate really strong. Really strong character building, really strong world building, really strong emotional tugs in the book, which I loved. After that, we were off to, I believe the prompt was Aladdin. The book was a romance. This, I'm not going to lie, I keep romances around. Not that who doesn't look at good sappy romance, right? The Hallmark Channel is a success for a reason. But sappy romances to me tend to be, and I've heard other people use this phrase too, palate cleansers. Like I just read this really emotionally intense book in Grey Wolf, and I was like, give me light and fluffy and predictable, right? So this is what this was. It was actually really good. I was surprised. Leaving Carolina by Tamara Lee. This is one of those, it is actually the first in a series. I don't know that I'll be finishing it. Not that I didn't like the book. There are other series that are higher priority to me right now. It's called Southern Discomfort. Um, the main character, and I cannot come up with her first name right now. Her last name is Wick. Um, she leaves her hometown, which is named after her family, changes her last name. Her last name is actually Pickwick. She drops the Pick part to try to distance herself. She has an uncle whose lawyer calls her and says, "You have to come home. Your uncle wants to rewrite the will. He's going to expose all family secrets because her family's been full of scoundrels and scalawags." Um, but what I liked about it, the romance was cute. What I liked about it was she had to come to terms with some things about herself and her choices in the past. She had to forgive some people to be able to move forward. She had to admit that family members who had mistreated her and her mother when she was younger and were the reason that she and her mother left town, that they had changed, that they had grown up, that they had come to terms with their own shortcomings and flaws. Um, so more so than the romance, I really enjoyed watching her grow, watching her let others grow. The romance was very well written and very adorable. And it was for a romance. It was more than I expected. It was meatier than I expected out of a romance, but not because of the romance part. The romance part was still pretty predictable. But the main character and the fact that she had to, when she was around some cousins who had been really mean to her when she was a kid, she had to admit they'd grown up and they'd moved on and they'd come to terms with how mean they'd been, and they start mending fences and building bridges. And that's really, to me, was the most powerful part of the story, is that this romance book actually had some really meaty stuff about forgiveness and giving people the grace and the freedom and the space to grow and mature and make up for their wrongs. It was really good. I was really kind of surprised. I mean, I expected a fluffy romance, right? This next book, The Third Stop for Team Aladdin. Sorry, my phone keeps locking on me, and I don't want to forget which character this is the prompt for. Oh, this is the rug. This one was supposed to have fantasy elements in it. This is book 2 in a series that I've been reading. I just read book 1 for the Bookie Trials. Still so good. Still leaves me hanging. R.A. Denny, I've connected with the author. I did a review of this, and she sent me the Moby for the 3rd book. The Emperor's Trap, Tales of Zeladia, book 2. When Denny originally wrote this series, it was, I think, 5 or 6 volumes. And then she condensed them, so now it's 3. Fictional, fantasy fictional. She does acknowledge that there are some elements of it that come from a Judeo-Christian background, but not everything. Just a handful of things that come from there. A God that teaches love and acceptance of everybody, regardless of how they look. And the God that they worship in that particular religious belief is named Adon, which is very similar to I believe, the Hebrew word Adonai, which is a name for God. So, but the rest of it is not. There are other religions talked about in the book, and talked about in such a way that the characters don't always understand the gods that demand a bloody sacrifice. But the gods that don't demand such a thing, there's not a lot of belittling or slamming or shaming or, well, this other god's better. So that was kind of something I appreciated about the book. But we still have our 3 characters of the prophecy started out in book 1. Brina, Moshoy, and Amanki. And Brina is a glider. Her people live in the trees, and they have glides in their body. They look like wings. They can't fly, but they can glide from tree to tree. They have claws that will extend, talons that will show up when they need to climb the tree. Moshoy is one of the rock people. Think human-sized armadillo, kind of. They grow rocky scales on their backs, so when they need to defend themselves, they can curl up into a ball and protect all the soft belly undersides. And a monkey is a webby. He looks humanoid. He looks like a human, but he has webbed feet, and so they're killer as swimmers. In this book, a monkey finds out that he might be royalty. He might be descended from royalty. The reader also finds out that there is this other character that Brina met. He's a Samaritan prince. They're tiger riders. They're lion riders. And somebody mistakes him when he's in a hot tub of a hot springs bath. Somebody mistakes him for a monkey until they see that his feet aren't webbed. So he looks, and that's the first time really that they've focused on the fact. Because when I thought about it, I'm like, well, yeah, the descriptions, they match. But they really brought out the fact in this book. The author brought out the fact in this book that these two look enough alike to be mistaken for one another. So now the reader's going, twins, ? And farmed out to 2 other people groups. So Amaki is not fully webby. and this Samaritan prince, cannot come up with his name off the top of my head, Metlin can hold his breath underwater and swim like a webby, even though his feet aren't webbed. So he's maybe part webby as well, and people figure this out. But Brina and Amanki have not connected yet, and Moshoy at the end of book 1 was left under a rock slide, maybe dead, maybe alive, we don't know. He doesn't show up at all in book 2, so I'm a little stressed for him because we've not had it confirmed that he's dead. We don't know if he's alive. He's just up there. His younger brother Tuka is carrying out his part of the task. He has to get a jar to Amanki. Amanki and Brina need to connect with these seals, these cylindrical seals that they're carrying. Tuka's working as an artisan in the palace because he's very gifted artistically. For the emperor, Brina and Amanki, for various reasons, find themselves at the front because the emperor has declared war on Karsos, which is a kingdom to the north. And the emperor himself is not there leading the troops. People have clued in Brina and Amanki, different people, that the order is, once the war has started and is nearly won, that the soldiers are supposed to turn on what they call subs, the subhumans, and slaughter them. Because the emperor knows about the prophecy and doesn't want anybody left that can fulfill it. And the prophecy involves one of the rock people, a glider, and a webby, so he wants them all dead. Sort of a bizarre little, they know the betrayal's coming. So at the end of book 2, we're left at the front. We're left with all kinds of questions about our characters and who they really are. What is Amanki's true identity? Baskrad was taken prisoner by the Samaritans and Metlin set him free. Metlin is on his way to provide troops because his father was killed while he was in the capital city. And he challenged his father's assassin, was able to kill him, and so now he's the king of the Samaritan people. He brings his troops as volunteers to help his uncle on the front. But the war hasn't quite started yet. The third book is where all of this comes to a head. And so I've been left with everybody at the front going, so I've got to get to the third book quickly because I'm dying to find out what happens. The fourth prompt for Team Aladdin was, sorry, my phone keeps locking up on me. Oh yeah, Jafar. Now this one was fun because this was a lot like the Bookie Trials as well. There was sort of a weakness or an extra challenge within your team. For Jafar, we had to read a book that will suck you into its world as if in a trance. So world building, really good world building. And a lot of choices there because apparently I used to be a big murder mystery girl. Apparently in the last few years I've become like super fantasy obsessed. So I have all kinds of great world building books in my collection. But the catch was this book had to be read after dark. Not a problem. I'm a night owl, so I could do it. But everything had to be read after dark. So that was challenging. I'm sitting watching, waiting for the sun to go down so I can pick up my book. This was actually a library book. I did have the actual hard copy of the book in hand, but I've already returned it back to the library. I read Black by Ted Dekker. I've read everything Dekker has written. I've met him. I went to a little live talk he was giving a few years back. I was on his launch team for the 49th Mystic and Rise of the Mystics, so I decided it's a long-term, however long it takes me, I'm going to go back and read his books because reading the two Mystic books, they're very definitely connected to a lot of the other things he's written. And if you've read his Circle series and his Paradise series and Eyes Wide Open, and there's all of these books, there's things that interconnect them, characters that show up in multiple series. So those of us on the launch team were talking about it in our little Facebook group, and somebody figured out the order to read the books in to get all of the connections and lock them all in your head. So I've been working my way through that, and it just conveniently worked out that Black has this really well-crafted fantasy world, this sort of alternate reality, future Earth thing. That's nothing like the Earth we know. So I used that to move myself through this, there's no time limit included, read through all of Dekker's work in a story order that makes sense to tie all the books together, and I took care of this. For the final prompt, it was a team book. Now with this challenge, every team has a book. With the Bookie Trials, we all had a grail that everybody read. This one has individual books that all the team is supposed to read. The understanding being if you've already read it, or if you can't get your hands on it, find something similar. I, on August 1st, put my name on the list to hold the book that was supposed to be our team book, The Last Magician. Looked good. The description was intriguing. The problem is it's been overdue for like a week, and I got tired of waiting. So I went to Goodreads, of course, and typed in books like The Last Magician. And then I went to my library to see which ones they had, trying not to spend any money because when you work for the school district and you're an hourly employee, there are no paychecks in the summer, so I'm trying to be good. But the book that I found, I don't regret for a minute not being able to read the book I was supposed to read. Several books were suggested. My library had 3 or 4 of them, and I read the descriptions, and this is the one that stuck with me, and I am obsessed. Like, I finished this book at like 1:30 in the morning last night. I stayed up way too late. Um, and I can't wait to get my hands on the rest of the series. It's a 3-parter. I'm over the moon in love with this series. It was a hard 5 stars for me. I could have given it more. I would have. Last Star Burning by Caitlin Sangster. Look, can we talk about this cover art? This is the main character, Sev. This is her mother. This is called the Traitor's Arch. Her mother is in suspended animation, blah, hanging in the Traitor's Arch. Very Chinese culture influence. The names have a very heavy Chinese culture influence. The author lived in Asia for a few years. She now lives in Utah, but she spent some time in Asia and is kind of obsessed with that. Her own bio in her book says if you're around her too much, she'll start talking about China and its culture and its history. So it's kind of a passion and a love for her. This character's name is Sev. We start out in the middle of her story. Her mother is in suspended animation under the Traitor's Arch. Her mother is accused of infecting the city with sleeping sickness and giving away the city's location to their enemies, the Kamrar, so that they could attack. But not all is as it seems. There are heliplanes that fly overhead every so often and scare the people, the enemy. There's a bridge that is bombed while Sev is on it. Because of her mother's crimes, her father is executed. Her sister, one of the results of the sleeping sickness after you have it is that when you wake up, you will suffer from what's called compulsions. In our culture, we probably would call it a psychotic break. People become violent. They'll harm themselves. They'll harm others. And her sister ran out into the courtyard one day with an axe, chasing one of the nuns at the orphanage that had taken Aya and Sev in. And they said it was a compulsion, that she was under a compulsion, was going to kill the nun. And so they shot her dead. Little girl shot her dead in the courtyard. Others would eventually tell Sev that there were bruises on her face and the nun had probably been beating her. And the result of the sleeping sickness was a much braver Aya. She was not going to take being mistreated and was fighting back. Probably not attempting to kill the nun, probably just trying to get her to stop hitting her. But Sev is standing on a bridge with a young man that has been her friend. She used to be what's called a first. Society is broken down into a caste system, really represents a very clearly defined caste system. There are firsts, who are the scientists and those looking for a cure for the sleeping sickness, which, by the way, the sleeping sickness in her book is based on an actual disorder. It doesn't play out quite the way that it does in the book. I want to find the right name of it. Encephalitis lethargica. It's a real disease called sleepy sickness. It's not contagious. It causes a paralyzed sort of sleep and can cause episodes of both self-harm and violence against others that seem almost compulsive. So she based the sleeping sickness on a real thing. But in her book, it's weaponized. Scientists have figured out how to weaponize it. So the first are supposedly working on a cure. They've provided a drug called Mantis that will keep the symptoms of compulsion, the symptoms of sleeping sickness for those who have awoken from it at bay. Sev has been told all of her life that her mother infected her, and she does vividly remember being injected by her mother and suffering from the sleeping sickness. She talks about the fact that she couldn't move, she couldn't talk, but she remembers being able to hear and being aware of what was going on around her. I can't say any more than that without giving away some really interesting plot points, but let's just say that when Sev, well, let me back up to the explosion on the bridge. She's with Taigay, who is a friend. His father's a general. I think his mother also works for the military. They're firsts. Because of her parents, her mother's actions, Sev has been demoted to being a fourth. You have your rank scarred into your hand, and when she was demoted, they took one of the stars off of a soldier's collar and branded her with the star over her level denotation. So she's forever branded a traitor. So just to look at her hand and you know. Yeah, it's an interesting book about politics and how people eager to keep political power will manipulate circumstances and manipulate the news and occurrences to get people to think a certain thing about a certain person or to think a certain way about an issue. Um, Kind of relevant, maybe, for parts of the world. Um, but she's standing on a bridge with Taige, and a heliplane comes in and bombs the bridge. She's thrown into the water. She has no clue if he's alive or dead. And somehow, the authorities, the first turn it around that Seb, whose every move is carefully watched, somehow managed to get information out to the enemy and manipulated Taige onto that bridge, even though she has no freedom to go wherever she wants in the city. She has a specific schedule she has to follow. She's being rehabilitated by Taige's family, who were friends of her family before her mother's traitorous acts. So she's on her way to her scheduled lessons with his father. Taige chooses to take the different route, having no clue what's about to happen. But they want to frame her for the explosion. So she runs out of the city, gets away with the help of some people who are sympathizers. And she thinks she's found freedom. She thinks she's found a cause to believe in, but they're not all they appear to be either. So Seth has to learn a lot about trust. She has to learn a lot about learning to accept the truth. She does eventually, I will give this much away, she does eventually get to have a conversation with her mother. There is a restorative drug that is injected into her mom, and she is able to have a conversation with her. Where that goes, I'm not going to tell you. What happens after that, I'm not going to tell you because I'll give away too much. But let's just say that this is... I've loved a lot of books in recent history. I've found a lot of really good ones through these readathons. This lands... I've always told people that Calico Palace is my go-to favorite book of all time. I'll reread it once a year. This lands right on Calico Palace's feet. This lands right on its tail. Like, it's... I can't say it replaces Calico Palace, but dear God in heaven, it is close. It is maybe tied. I have never, ever embraced and fallen in love with a book this fast, this hard. To say nothing of the fact that it's culturally not the kind of book that I would normally attach to. Like I said, there's some Chinese culture influence in here, and it's a culture I don't know well, so it's one I tend to shy away from reading about in fiction. Nonfiction is a different thing because that's where I learn. But the author does a beautiful job of tying just enough of it in that if you even have the most basic knowledge of Chinese history, you'll be able to see where the influences came. The war going on is loosely based on an actual war, not very factually, but loosely based, loosely influenced by the events of that war. But I am absolutely crazy in love with this book and this series. If you enjoy fantasy at all, if you enjoy books like The Last Magician, which basically is a young person trying to solve a problem, but the problem she thinks exists is not the real problem. Basically, she's been told her mother brought the sleeping sickness to the city and helped the enemies find her. That's not true at all. The sleeping sickness is there, and it was definitely manufactured by someone and weaponized, but it wasn't her mother. Her mother was doing something altogether different. So if you like books like The Last Magician and others where it's a main character fighting against a situation that is not at all what it appears to be, and as they learn the truth, they realize they still have to fight. They just have to fight a different thing in a different entity and in a different way. This is the book for you. It's Last Star Burning. There are 2 more books in the series by Caitlin Sangster. It is a phenomenal, can't put it down read. So with that, for the rest of the month, like I said, for the Disneyathon that I'm doing right now, now I move on to another location, and I'm not exactly sure which one that is, but we are moving on to, and I will be able to tell you here in a minute. I have to move on to Team Tangled's location, which for me involves titles like The Hate You Give, books that got glowing reviews. The Soul Summoner, which I'm excited to read. That's been on my TBR for a while anyway, which is supposed to be a dark, mysterious book. A dreamy cover for the Snuggly Duckling Cove. I love that. A book with a dreamy cover. That one's going to be Hava by Tosca Lee because the cover on that is stunning. And I won an autographed copy of that about a year ago. So I'm excited to read that. The Mother Gothel prompt is a power-hungry main character. I'm reading a book I've had on my Kindle for a while called London Macabre. Kind of excited. And then the team book for Rapunzel is, I don't remember. Oh, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. So I got myself on the list for that one at the library as well. And then after that, we're off to Team Mulan. And then after that, Team Lion King. Like I said, I don't know that I'll get, looking at my calendar, which is like right here, and looking at everything that's on it for the rest of my month. I don't know that I'll get all the way through everything, but I'm going to do my best. I had someone tell me I'm nuts to do readathons with my schedule as busy as it is, but I'm discovering that I'm cleaning out a lot of my TBR, especially on my Kindle. So I'm going to keep doing them. September, I'm gearing up to do the Monsterathon. I know it sounds strange to do it in September, not October. The woman that organizes it, for whatever reason, does it in September instead. And then in October, I'm looking at the possibility of doing a Lotteryathon, which it's this random drawing kind of thing. There's a lottery involved, so the prompts aren't preset for you. Excuse me, the prompts aren't preset for you. You decide your prompts on this multiple round drawing kind of thing that you do. And I'll get more of the details. I'm still learning the details on that one, but that one, we start drawing our prompts and setting up our readathon, our TBR in September to do the readathon in October. So yes, I'm a little nuts to be doing all these TBRs. The other issue is I've got people sending me arcs to read that I need to find time to review as well. So that's, like I said, I may not finish all of the Disneyathon this month, but my goal was to get at least through the Team Aladdin prompts, which I've done, so I've achieved my goal for the month. But hopefully I'll get at least a few more titles read, because like I said, a lot of these are also, looking at my list, a lot of these are also ones that I'd like to get read and off my TBR. So have a great day, find a good book, and enjoy your summer.